In this lesson, I'm going to give you an overview of .NET and C#. Now, .NET provides foundational services to C#. .NET is a free, cross-platform, open-source developer platform, and it helps you build many different types of applications. We can use multiple languages, different editors, and multiple libraries. It consists of many tools to help you with development, such as the Common Language Runtime, the different languages like C#, Visual Basic, F#, C++, and many others. It has compilers and runtime libraries. So what can you build with .NET and C#? Well, you can build console applications, and these are typically used for small utilities or for trying out code snippets. You can build cloud apps. That includes cloud-native apps, serverless functions in the cloud, web apps, web APIs, and microservices. You can also build cross-platform client applications. That includes desktop apps, games, and mobile apps. You can also build Windows applications. So that includes Windows desktop applications, Windows Forms, Windows WPF, or Universal Windows Platform applications, and even Windows services. A couple other application types you can build are machine learning apps and Internet of Things. Let's now take a look at the CLR and the .NET Runtime. So the Common Language Runtime, the CLR, is the foundation for all .NET applications regardless of what language you use, and it provides many features that you would otherwise have to build, and that includes memory allocation, garbage collection, starting, killing threads and processes, security, memory safety, and type safety. So this is what's called a managed code runtime, which means it manages all these features so you don't have to. Now, the .NET Runtime Library is a standard set of classes that can be used by any language on any operating system that .NET runs on. It contains all the standard data types like integers, booleans, strings. It contains collections like object containers, typed collections, also known as generics. It contains network utility classes such as HTTP client. It's classes to read and write streams and files. And it provides serialization support for JSON and XML. It also gives us memory management, threading, garbage collection, exception handling, security, database interaction, and deployment. So all of these things, the CLR, these .NET Runtime libraries, they all work together to provide us with hundreds of features that we would otherwise have to build by hand. Let's talk about the different .NET versions that are available. Now, .NET has been around for a long time, and right now there are 4 .NET implementations. There's the .NET Framework, there's .NET 5 and later, also known as .NET Core, there's Mono, and there's UWP. Now, the .NET Framework is the original implementation that has existed since 2002, actually even going back a little further if you're including the betas. Now, it is considered legacy, but support is continuing at this time. You also have .NET 5 and later, or what's called .NET Core. These are the current implementations. They are cross-platform, and new features are being added to these versions all the time. We also have Mono. It's used when a small runtime is required. It's the runtime used for Xamarin applications and powers the games that are built by using the Unity engine. We also have UWP. This is used to build touch-enabled Windows applications and build those Internet of Things applications. So Universal Windows Platform is what UWP stands for. Let me give you an overview of the way that .NET compiles the languages. So all languages are compiled into intermediate language. This is also called Microsoft Intermediate Language. And IL is simply a compact set of instructions that is gathered from your high-level language that you're writing in. So C# is compiled into IL. Visual Basic is compiled into IL. F# is compiled into IL. So all of these kind of compile down into the same set of instructions. Then we can support that on any operating system that supports the .NET Runtime because the IL code is compiled to the native code for that OS, and it does it using either one of two types of compilers, either an ahead-of-time compiler or a just-in-time compiler. Which one is used depends on the operating system and whether it supports one or the other, or it could even support both. So what are the tools that you're going to need to write with C# and .NET? Well, I highly recommend using Visual Studio 2022 Community Edition, or one of the higher versions that you pay for, but the Community Edition is free, and you can download it from visualstudio.microsoft.com. Now you can also use Visual Studio Code. Now this is a more lightweight editor, doesn't give you all the features of Visual Studio 2022, but it's a great way to get started. It's also cross-platform. It runs on Macs and Linux, so depending on what type of environment you prefer programming in, you might wish to use Visual Studio Code. In order to use that, you will need to install the .NET SDK, and you'll need to install C#. C# is installed as an extension right in VS Code. The community for .NET is very rich, and you'll find a lot of resources out there. For .NET, a great place to start is .NET.Microsoft.com. For developer resources, there's Learn.Microsoft.com. This comes full of tons of documentation as well as tutorials to walk you through getting started developing applications. And Visual Studio has some great documentation on how to use it, as well as the Visual Studio Code. So again, you'll kind of choose which editor you use, but then you'll use these other resources to figure out how to get started. But I'm going to give you a lot of that here in this course.